Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Asian Pickles, where we talk about Asian American subjects and the pickles that we get into. I'm Brandon, and here are my other two lovely co-hosts.
I'm Pa.
I'm Shosho.
And today we're going to be talking about a subject near and dear to my heart. Asian male penises.
Woohoo! Yay!
Yay! So first off, I'm a male penis haver, and I'm Asian American. So I am the leading authority. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to be talking about what it all means and some of the difficulties around this subject, especially for modern men when it comes to their dating life. I'll share some of my own stories, but we're going to go into some subject matter expertise from people who deal with Asian men as clients too. So, what's the deal with Asian male penis size?
That they're small.
So I've heard.
Yeah, it's like such bullshit, and it makes me very angry. And I don't even want to get into this question of averages because it's such a boring subject. The whole thing of small Asian male penises is such a fucking gaslight, and it really pisses me off as a sex and relationship coach. It's so damaging, and I just want to say, like, right out the gate, that it is a product of the white imagination and not an actual fact. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember vaguely becoming aware of like my own, like, the length of my penis or just the subject, like somewhere in middle school, and of course it's not an easy thing to talk about, but it really sent the message that like penis size is important, and that somehow it's important in you giving something to girls or women. And I later learned that was supposed to be orgasms or pleasure, or that's the main delivery mechanism that I'm responsible for. So it kind of put into my head that I'm supposed to be good at something that I've never experienced my own self, never heard about. And so what do boys naturally do when they're kind of like, oh, I don't really know? You research and try to do things in your own room with no context or help or any kind of mature insight whatsoever.
Which is porn.
I was going to ask, like, how many of us actually have a proper education around sex and pleasure?
Unfortunately, that was my first introduction into any kind of extreme sexual activity, which was porn. But that was probably in the 90s, so it was a lot less...
Asian porn?
No, it was all, like, it was just white people porn. And that was even, like, if somebody's dad had, like, a collection or anything laying around. So, but anyway, that just kind of delivered the message that I'm responsible for something, and it put an immense amount of pressure on me for no reason at all.
And I think that makes a lot of sense because, like, so in our last episode, we talked about the Asian body as political, and I want to, like, extend that further and talk about how the Asian penis is political.
Say more.
Yeah, okay,
like
so...
it's a flag that I go to other countries and I just...
It's being exploited for labor.
My penis labor is being exploited. That's not...
So you know, when I say that, here's what I mean. Like, I think we need to see it in the context of the white gaze, of Asian men seeing their own penises through a white gaze instead of having a direct relationship with their penis. And we talked about this last time around dissociation. There is a dissociation from the body because I believe there is such shame around having a male body, an Asian male body, and an Asian male penis, right? So it is just this terrible cycle that gets perpetuated from like middle school on.
I would just always imagine, like, in the boys' locker room, they just, like, compare penis sizes. Is that not happen? Is that true?
No.
Oh, okay. And that's where, like, where do the Asian men comes in that scenario?
The real story of locker rooms is the people who you don't want to see naked are always naked, and the people who, like, you're curious about, they're just going to change under a towel.
So, like, the larger context I want to frame this in, is one that is also comparative, like you're talking about in locker rooms. But in the bigger American cultural context, black men have big dicks and small brains. And Asian men have small dicks and big brains.
Yep.
And that's how whiteness wants it to be.
But what about white people? They have big dicks and big brains, right?
They're the only ethnicity that gets to have both.
It's a construct.
It's a construct.
And of course, if it relies on a hierarchy that's artificially created. And so I had to really spend years like trying to backtrack, like what evidence are they using? I think the biggest one is that Asian men are feminine. That's
totally. It like especially East Asian men, because that's where I think like most of this is directed. That East Asian men are not considered men at all. Like their penises have been shrunken by the white imagination.
Yeah, and mostly I think this goes back to like immigrant men doing things that white men would think are women's jobs, like laundry, cooking, caring, nannying, like, and so of course they're like, yeah, they might as well be women because they're doing women's jobs. So that's the justification, I think, and it just has been so long standing because no one's questioned it. It doesn't even make any sense, but that's the justification for feminizing, because if we we slide to the left, the sexual hierarchy of men is how manly are you and how feminine are you.
That's also a construct.
Right, that's also a construct.
And defined by whiteness.
Which
is that if you care about anything at all, then you're feminine.
Yeah, if you want to kiss a baby on the forehead, gay. And the expression,
shopping.
yeah, going grocery shopping is somehow seen as feminine, and if the implication is feminine is not to be chaste. That you cannot be both at the same time. You must be one or the other. It's a binary. False binary. So, what does that come to like in like when it comes to relationships or dating?
I see that how whiteness has convinced BIPOC men that they're somehow incomplete or unbalanced.
And in order to compensate for that, they have to invest in more superficial factor, like bigger car, the bigger fish they catch, and
that's capitalism.
Just to compensate on how insecure they feel about themselves.
Yes, and it can, these things can extend, these processes can extend for years, right? Chasing these invisible targets instead of so what is the answer to this? I like, we're going to talk about this, but I think it is to sidestep the whole penis conversation in the first place.
Well, okay. But I think that the reason why we have this conversation, like, as one of our episodes is we want to talk about pleasure. Because penis size is about achieving pleasure in the bedroom, right? And
that's the idea.
Yeah.
So is that a fallacy that the penis size is not the only toy, the only tool for both couples to achieve, pleasure in the bedroom?
I don't think it has like anything to do with pleasure
Please share
at all.
your expertise.
It's got nothing to do with pleasure at all. It has nothing to do with pleasure at all. Penis size.
Yeah, that was actually a big lesson for me when I first decided to get sex and relationship coaching, is that the first lesson I learned from my coach was that my orgasm is my own responsibility and another person's is theirs. And I was like, there's no fucking way. I'm supposed to be responsible for the woman or the person that I'm sexually pursuing. I'm supposed to be in charge of that, right? And she's like, no, you have to focus on you, otherwise you're going to get wrapped up in your head. And I was like, oh shit, that's because I was all worried about two different things, and then the pleasure element completely escaped me.
Well, the dissociation
yeah, that too.
Causes the dissociation
the dissociation during sex?
Yeah, it causes dissociation during sex. If you like focus on stuff like your penis size or being responsible for another person, you do go into your head and you do disconnect from the whole experience. And so that sucks. And that creates that creates more bad sex than penis size ever does. It's so simplistic.
So what I'm hearing a lot from my own clients, like female clients, is that they might require more time in order to reach pleasure, orgasm, however you call it, and a lot of their partners don't really put a lot of energy to pursue that, to help them pursue that, right? And so oftentimes, even though men, or orgasm first, they just stop, they're done. The job is done.
Not cool. Not cool.
So yes, it's more on the women to demand to reach penetration and orgasm and peak of pleasure. But I think it's in the bedroom, it's about negotiation. It's about really communicating their wants and their desire, and also respecting their partner's needs, which is not really, taught outside of the bedroom.
So, even before an Asian American man gets to the bedroom, there's all this stuff that needs to shift in the mindset, right? And technique can always be added on, but there is a core and central way that the Asian American man views himself.
Right.
That is the meat of the situation, pun intended.
And so I'll use my own self as my example. Learning that I had to ask my body questions first about what I felt was the best way forward in any kind of situation where I'm being sexual or touching. And that was a huge shift for me. I wouldn't say it was difficult once I had been exposed to it, but no one had talked to me about that until I was at least 30.
You were navigating it blindly.
Blindly, complete, and off of really bad information that in earnest I was trying to enact.
Yeah, like rom-coms and porn.
Yeah, really bad info, really bad directions plugged into my GPS, and I was like, yep, we're gonna get there. And because what I really wanted was to have good sexual experiences and with partners who, but I was so worried about the wrong things instead of let me tell you how I do things and you tell me how you do things and let's see if they overlap. That was probably the biggest game changer in pleasure that I had learned, and I was like, oh shit, I don't actually know what I want. No one had ever, including myself, asked myself that.
I think what you're talking about is the reassociation process that comes after disassociation. And the bad information that you're getting from bad sources contributes to the bad timing that you are talking about, Hua. And so, I wanna say that I think that penises are the most fun toy in the world. It is a completely responsive to the person it's with, right? Like the perfect toy responding to your every action with its own reaction. And that response of a penis to another person is more important than the penis size. And that is a question of energy, chemistry, and connection, right? Nothing to do with penis size.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, erectile dysfunction, you can't really solve it with a pill if you're not attracted or into the person. It's like a weather vane, right? It really tells the truth. And I would say that's very true, having had several performance anxiety experiences in the bedroom in my mid-20s where I was like, a girl was interested in me, so that means we should have sex. And before I was ready, I was like, okay, we're gonna have sex. And I'm just terrified. My body's like, yes, I'm attracted to her, but I don't know anything about her. I am just freaked out. And when the time came to perform, I think she interpreted it as she wasn't attractive. I was just like, no, I'm actually terrified. I had no experience just taking it at my own pace because I was like, if someone says, let's have sex, I should say yes right away.
Yeah, then that's crossing your own boundaries.
That's crossing my own boundaries.
So men crossing the boundaries of their penises creates a dissociative relationship with the penis.
And also alcohol.
Yes.
Especially
Yes.
when you first start, you know, like playing with the water around sex and sexuality.
Yep.
It's like, it's all with the company of alcohol. Like, and then so the question of consent get blurred.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also dissociation, because you're really not aware of your body anymore. It's all about,
and
jumble
inhibition
up.
too.
Exactly.
And I think that the more I talk to people growing up, like a lot of people when they initially had sex, there was always alcohol involved because they were so nervous. And I think if people have more time together, they get to know parts of each other. But if it's too fast, too soon, like, yes, you have the act of it, but it's probably not going to be good. And I've had actually poor sexual experiences because I didn't know anything about the other person. I didn't know what I needed, and so it's just kind of like, it's just really awkward.
I think we're straying into the area of sexuality, which is natural since we're talking about Asian male penis size. But like just Asian men having this idea of their own penis as not being as being like not up to par or like a poor performer, that inhibits everything from the very beginning. Right? So like I just want to encourage Asian men to take the spotlight off the penis. Just take it off your penis because they don't like being stared at under a surgical gaze, under a surgical light, right? And to remember that it is not that your body has zero problems. It is like the white gaze that you're viewing yourself through. And there's a spectrum of comparison between a black man who gets to have a big dick but a small brain, and you get to have a small dick and a big brain. And it's constructs. Okay? So I want to say that because I think that sets an important context for any sexual experience to happen.
Isn't that something that you talk about with your Asian male clients too? Like setting them up in the right mind frame before you even deal with any kind of issues with the penis?
Well, we can't talk about techniques because suddenly it's like, you know, like, okay, well, if dick size isn't an issue, then maybe I should just, you know, have better foreplay or like go down on her better and like learn how to do that. And I'm like, yeah, like okay, but if you're actually not in touch with what's happening inside, that is a much bigger issue. So what I try to do is help them take the spotlight off of their penis by focusing on their wholeness, like developing their own wholeness.
And tell them to go see a therapist.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just also want to say we're only touching in with cis hetero Asian American men. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about any trans men or non-binary folks. So we're not trying to exclude that. We're just trying to bring this conversation to... it's under-researched. It's under... Like, this is not talked about. Mm-hmm. It needs to see the day of light because I think there's a bit of shame associated with it too.
Like a lot.
A lot. So de-shamifying or just normalizing a conversation like this. But bringing back to pleasure and mutual pleasure with consent, that's why this whole kind of like word campaign around like consent is sexy. And I never understood that until I was like, oh wow, we're actually like figuring out like discussing what each person likes. And I was like, oh, that's great because both of us are going to get what we want at some point or another. It doesn't even have to be within the same sexual experience. It could be like, your turn's next time, my turn's this time, because... And then there's no kind of like, well, what about me? I gotta solve this person's problem. Everyone knows how to advocate for themselves.
Actually, I don't know about that. Advocating for yourself is a skill that not a lot of Asian men and women learn to do.
Right, we are taking a lot for granted, and that could be an episode or its own journey about advocating for one's. And actually, I had to date myself properly before I was able to even say like, I like this, I don't like that. And There's
Can you
this.
give an example of how you take yourself on a date?
Oh, I'll tell you about.
Master dating.
It's called master dating with a D, not master. Well, also masturbation. Okay, I won't go on too many tangents, but um, using masturbation as a sort of safe place to explore what actually excites you. But the master dating part is what do only I want to do, even with. So I took myself on my first master date to a new wave nightclub event. And I was like, I only want to listen to 80s music, and none of my friends like it. I'm going to fucking go by myself. And the second one I went to was kind of like a one off concert in some small dive bar. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. But it also forced me to like talk to new people and just also like just being by myself. I noticed a lot more. I was like, who am I into? Like, I'm like just kind of naturally kind of gazing.
But you're
this
by
direct-
yourself in a crowd of people, not
Yes.
by yourself in your own room.
Correct. Yes. I'm exposed to other people's nervous systems, and I was like, and I just remember meeting a Canadian French girl who, she was gay, but we absolutely were like having a great time. I was like, this is so nice to be out when there's no sexual pressure, and we just had a blast. And I was like, oh, this is the kind of stuff we need to do before we actually seriously date somebody. I'd never done that before.
So like the story you just said, I think is great because it illustrates in a way how the antidote to feeling victimized by this stereotype of small Asian male penises is wholeness, is becoming a whole person, a whole
It's loving
man.
yourself.
Yeah, and here's what I think that kind of looks like. It is one, like learning how to have a good relationship with your penis, and that is this idea of not shaming it and accepting it for everything it is, how it looks, how it performs, and understanding and being able to read what it needs, and seeing that it's intelligent, it's not dumb, and it is not something that you can use or conquer or colonize. Right? Does that make sense? That it has an intuition that says yes or no, and if you ignore that intuition, you do it at your own peril. It's like not going to work for you eventually.
That's right. And I saying yes, understanding our body's yeses and nos, and sometimes there's a maybe in between, which is you've said it before. It just means you need more information. And when it comes to the pleasure department, there's a word that's kind of recent is demisexual. Is people who can only have sex if they're emotionally connected to somebody. And I was like, I'm definitely in that category, but I didn't know that for a long time. I thought if you're a straight man, you just go whenever a woman says, I'm ready. That's just what I remember internalizing instead of like, actually, I'm not actually into that right now, but I could be. And, my penis will tell me. Like, he'll tell me, like, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I can communicate that instead. But that doesn't mean I'm going to have sex. It can mean I can have sex with myself or later with another person. So I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah, I mean, like, on that note, I want to say, like, one thing that men might not know is that, like for men, when women say no, it's a terrible thing. It's not sexy. But when men say no to women, it can be a very sexy thing. Right? Like making a woman wait, creating some mystery there. Like upping your value. That's like a technique. That's kind of a game. But if there isn't that inherent sense of value that a man has for himself, that's kind of going to be hard to you can't fake that. So I want to say one thing about what I mean by wholeness in a man and why that's a better antidote than just feeling victimized by your penis size. And like wholeness is basically like having a connection to yourself and self-attunement and having a whole mind, body, spirit thing going on inside of you, and then bringing that to somebody you're attracted to. That's so sexy.
It requires attunement.
Yep.
It requires not dissociation. It's not dissociating. It requires a lot of deep exploration of their own insecurity.
Yeah, and like knowing yourself,
Yeah.
knowing those insecurities inside and out. You don't have to solve them. Just know them and know that they're a part of you and love them.
I mean, before we start to wrap up, I'll just say I was trying to fix a lot of those things before I presented myself, and that actually was a bad strategy. I was trying to perfect myself before I, instead of being like, okay, I'm aware of this, that's cool. And also, I'm self-conscious of it, instead of like, let me solve this before I actually expose myself, which that just kind of delays the real task of being vulnerable.
And I want to say a thing about sexiness, right? And Asian American men and sexiness. That there is so much sexiness in the self-attunement that we're talking about. It creates natural self-confidence. And there's a lot of sexiness in amplifying things beyond the penis. In nurturing, in laughing together, in growing together. That shit is sexy. And that's, I think, what women want. That you are seeing her and she is seeing you. You are letting somebody see you into your spirit. And you are seeing into somebody else's spirit. And that creates connection. And that creates really good sex. And that creates a safe, erotic life where both people, or hell, more than two people can play.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Something to
so
watch?
yeah, so what we're gonna finish with is a few things. One question for you that you can ask yourself, and also one or two things that you can watch. Let's start with a question first.
So how do you honestly feel about penis size? Ask yourself, ask your friend. Can I explore that, as a hot topic at the table?
At the dinner table.
I know, good convo at the table. Also, because there's not a lot of media representation, we're gonna still recommend watching Warrior, because it just kind of shows, I guess, a little more just of Asian men just masculinity, acting in a bold way, but it just kind of also says that this is an under researched topic, or it's not talked about a lot, so let's try to change
So
that.
let's throw it out to you.
Yeah.
What have you seen out there that has made you feel proud and confident about Asian male penis size? Or Asian masculinity?
What makes you proud of your Asian pickle?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks again for watching, and send us a DM or an email. We appreciate any comments or questions, especially around this sensitive topic. And we look forward to making another episode and seeing you guys soon.